Hi, everyone. Welcome to our brand new TV show. My name is Angel Kamanzuli. I'm the patient liaison for Tarpon Total Healthcare. We're a chiropractic office located in Tarpon Springs, and this show is called I Stand Corrected. So today is our very first show, like I said, and our very first guest is Maria Hixon. You're with Pasco Kids First. Your office is located not very far from our little spot here on Ridge Road.
Yeah, we actually have a couple of different offices.
Okay.
So we have the office here in Newport Richey, which houses our child protection team and our therapy team. And then we have an office in Hudson, Brooksville for healthy families. And then we have a Dade City office that's also trauma therapy and healthy families as well. So we're spread out amongst the county, and then we have other services we'll talk about later. But yeah, so we have a couple of different offices. Our main office is very close to here, like you said.
So you and I got to finally meet in person, a little while back. One of the best, hardest meetings that I've had with anyone in a while, and I want to take as much of a deep dive as we're able to during this time. We were talking out front before we walked in here, and the fact that Pasco Kids First exists is a great thing, but it's such a sad thing.
Yeah.
That there's such a, not even as much of there's a demand for it.
Yeah.
It's an actual demand for your services, which is heartbreaking, but I was not aware until I met with you in person. We went right down to your office, a little north of here. North of here?
South, I think.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
South of here.
South and I'm little.
My internal GPS is always a little off. But so when I met with you at your office and we did a walkthrough and we talked with the provider that was there and some of the other therapists that were there in their offices, I left heartbroken.
Yeah.
Because of the desperate need that the communities have. And this is just in the Nature Coast area. It's not even talking about like Hillsborough County and like the cities that are around the ports. But I had no idea all of the things that you covered. So thankfully in this space right here, we've got some time where we can actually have a very focused conversation, and I feel like the public needs very desperately to know so much more about what it is that you do. And then like the gala that you do at the end of every year, what is it, in November?
Yeah.
I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that you're doing all year long leading up to the biggest night of the year that helps you to gain the funds so you can just continue on.
Right.
So I want to talk about all the things.
Sure.
So I have questions.
Okay. Let's start.
All right. So first of all, who is Pasco Kids First? There's going to be plenty of people that see this and they'll be like, who? And they'll just start
Right.
Googling your name because maybe they've never heard of the organization ever. So who is Pasco Kids First and like, what is your mission?
So Pasco Kids First is a private nonprofit that has been around for about 33 years.
Wow.
And we are your local child advocacy center, which means we provide a variety of services that are all free to the community. And when people call, like the Florida, abuse hotline, and a report of abuse is done, established, and or a child is neglected, witness a violent crime, any of those sexually, physically abused, any of those instances, we will get a report, and we work very closely with the Pasco County Sheriff's Office as well. They first come into our agency through our child protection team, and then get transferred over to our trauma therapy office, and we have a prevention arm for preventing child abuse, which is our Healthy Families, and we talk a little bit more about that. But who we are is your local child advocacy center, and our mission is to keep kids safe and to strengthen families, and we do that in a variety of ways with the variety of programs that are provided. We kind of have an upriver strategy and a downriver strategy. that addresses how to make the best and most safe environments for children, and how to address situations that have already happened and provide trauma therapy and healing intervention services, and bring healing to, making victims into survivors. So we are the place that in your community, when there is a family struggling, a child struggling, abuse, any kind of abuse, we're the place that they go for service and care. So a lot of people don't realize that they have that. They think that they just pick up the phone, they either call 911 or they call like Child Protective Services.
Right.
But there's steps after those initial phone calls are made with, child protection investigations and things like that. That further down the road, we are then involved, and then we provide a variety of services. So that is, in a nutshell, who we are. And we could talk a little bit about the programs individually as well. And you can ask about that later. But that's basically who we are. We are your local child advocacy center, the place for services and help.
So. Okay, so let's say, well, I've got scenarios in my mind, and they are very varied. So kid gets mad at their parents because they had their video games taken away, not able to go out with their friends. They took their iPhone from them, and they're 9, and that kid calls. Is that a call that would end up getting routed to you, or is that something that would get vetted through law enforcement first? Like, what is the means that the call then is, the baton is passed to you?
The baton is passed to us when an actual referral is made from law enforcement, or if a referral, a parent or a guardian is self-referring for trauma therapy. The investigation side of it is happening when an actual referral is taking place from law enforcement, when something has been initiated, an actual report of abuse has been initiated. So that's when we don't take, there's not frivolous things coming up where we're like the abuse hotline. That's not who we are. Things are getting filtered before they get to us, and there's a process that happens before things come to our agency, where we provide the next step of services that with our child protection team, and then eventually our trauma therapy team. So there's a process in place that we don't take just random phone calls from anyone who's for instance, a child, maybe they're mad at their parents. That's not what we do. We start with child protection team from them receiving an actual filed abusive report. So.
And then it would have to be
more than report of abuse. Sorry.
Oh, this is okay. It's more than just an allegation of abuse by so the police would arrive on the scene, and then they would assess the situation, and then it's warranted by the officer that is there.
Well, I mean, it depends. Part of the process of what our agency offers is the investigation part with law enforcement through our forensic interviews and our medical examinations with child protection teams. So we'll get a report of abuse in, we will get a child or adolescent in for a medical examination, and we have a medical staff we have a medical staff on board with a physician's assistant, and several nurses, and they are trained, especially trained in abuse, medical abuse, presenting medical abuse things on the body. So they will examine that person, and if and go from there. So they get their medical examination, and then they move into a forensic interview detailing the account of that alleged abuse, what happened. They work with our highly trained child protection team member along with the Pasco County Sheriff's Office. And in our facility, there is one side of a room where that forensic interview takes place, down the hall from the medical room where they're examined physically. They'll come down the hallway and they'll start that interview process with our child protection team. On the other side, we'll also have the Sheriff's Office. We have recording devices where all of that, that information gathering, that evidence collection, all of it, that forensic interview takes place. So a report of abuses is done. They come in the door, they get examined, and then they'll get that forensic interview. And then starts the next process with our our liaison between the two programs, child protection team and our trauma therapy, our child advocate that then transitions that person, that child or adolescent from after they've been examined and they've been interviewed, what merits then into receiving trauma therapy. So we have a person for the intake, incoming for all the steps, and then a person in between that bridges then to the next set of services.
There's so much.
There's a lot. Yeah.
There's so much.
Yeah.
When I was first setting out into the world as an adult, we know so much when we're 18 years old. And I had thought that, you know what, I want to be a child psychologist.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah. So I had wanted to work with kids when I was barely not one. Legally, I wasn't one, but I still very, very much was. Looked into the foster system. I didn't live in the state of Florida at the time. I lived on the other coast. And I learned pretty quickly how daunting of a process it actually is. And I didn't even realize it as much until I came and met with you, and we walked through, and I was thinking as we was walking around the hallway that loops all the way around on the inside, how many children of all ages, of all walks of life, because it's not just, this is, child abuse of every level is not a poor family's experience. It's not a discriminator. Yeah, it is something that can happen to anybody of all walks of life. And sometimes, we as a society, I guess, things that will hit the news and we'll be like, oh, I would have never guessed that it was them. They come from such a good family. And you just don't know what happens behind closed doors.
Or I know that guy, I would have never thought.
Well, they said the same thing about Ted Bundy.
Did you see the news on the Dalai Lama recently?
Oh, Lord, no. Oh, I have to Google that after this whole thing is over.
Yeah, you're going to die. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
See, and just when you think, and this is another thing, too, just when you think like...
Not to bring in relevant topic, I know.
Well, but like the human depravity has reached its low. Like here we are. It can't get any lower. Bam. Tomorrow happens and something even worse happens. And that being just on a humanity issue, but when it happens to kids.
Yeah.
So when I had this grand idea in my mind that I was going to save all the kids, and then I realized that there's a lot of schooling and stuff that goes into it. Not that I was put off by that, because I love learning. But when I got into the first semester of the curriculum, I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with my faith. Yeah. I'm faith driven by far more now than I was when I was like 20. But even then, I realized that the things that were being taught as the standard was so far below my own personal standard that I just couldn't.
Right.
I couldn't imagine. So I ditched that, and I even looked into, because I'd had my children by the time I was 22 and was done. Two arms, 2 legs, 2 kids. You're outnumbered after that, birth-wise. But then I wanted to. I'm adopted myself. I had wanted to adopt a child, and so before adoption, I was like, okay, well, we can be a foster family. That's what broke my brain. That was actually what did it, and I didn't, and I do somewhat regret it that I allowed it to take up so much negative space in my head. Like I was really angry when I was going through the classes and stuff. Not that the classes were bad, but it was almost, in the state that I was living, it was almost like the classes and then what really happens once the child is placed with you. Very, very different.
Yeah. Dealing
with the court system and the judicial system versus the training that was offered. I felt like, unfortunately, and thankfully this is going back 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years. I felt like we were set up for failure. And I felt like all of the kids were really set up for failure.
Yeah.
A lot of people fostered for the monetary aspect of it, which is really what upset me. So anyway, that was 20 years ago, and now, here we are sitting at this, and I'm thinking about all of these experiences, and then, walking around the circle inside and just thinking about how many kids of every age, of all walks of life, walked in your building and had to go to get their medical exam.
Yeah.
And then meet with the trauma therapist, and then go into the room where there's the glass, and now they're being interviewed, if you will, and how that must have felt,
Yeah.
for a kid.
Yeah. It's traumatic. It is traumatic. One of the things that we recently did was just try to update even the walking into the lobby as comfortable and as kid friendly as possible,
Yeah.
because they're walking in there under some of the most traumatic circumstances, and the environment, sensory wise, just there's so much coming at them. Everything that they're about to, that they don't even realize that they're about to experience, to be physically examined is its own traumatic event, I would say. Also, having to be examined by a physician to look for that physical abuse, that sexual abuse, and then to move into being asked questions after to detail the accounts of those things. These are really traumatic events, and no, they don't discriminate on who walks through that door. And over 33 years, I'm sure the halls have seen so many children and adolescents that have come through the door of varying backgrounds. And you saw the T-shirts that they finish when they're done with their program, and they write their phrases, like their therapeutic phrases, or things like I've learned not to keep secrets that hurt me.
Hurt me, that's right.
Safe adults don't ask children to keep secrets.
Yes.
Things that they learn through their therapy process that help them in that transition of victim to survivor, and that they leave these little keepsakes that they put up on the walls that now adorn the walls of the agency, that are part of there for people to see when they come and tour, and to look at the messages that the previous clients have written. And unfortunately, just the medical examinations alone, we're around 500 children a year that are being examined, and that's just us. That's just our facility.
Just here in Pasco?
Yeah, just
not even the other two.
No, these take place here. The medical examinations take place here. We do have the sexual assault forensic examination program, which is for adults in the community, both at St. Leo University and over at the health department on 41 Land O' Lakes, and that is for adults. When a sexual assault has been committed, they're able to go there and get a physical examination, get medication, be seen by a nurse and a physician, and it's up to them if they pursue that with law enforcement after that point. But they have the ability to go and get that free service for them, get that evidence collection, get medication. And we have we're located right now in two different spots on opposite sides of the county. So we have that. So it's traumatic, what they experience when they walk in the door, what they've already experienced, what they're about to experience as the beginning process towards their healing. And, child protection team has, it takes, you talk about going to school and wanting to do certain things for a living. It takes certain people really cut out for certain things to be able to make a career out of those things. I personally don't think I could have the mental emotional bandwidth for that kind of what you hear and see every day. Thankfully, I'm able to provide support through the work that I do for the agency, but on a more perimeter, instead of working directly with the children.
Right.
Because the child protection team is a specialized skill set of team members that are good at what they do and unique in their abilities and highly trained, as well as our trauma therapists who have specialized training, specialized experience, and they're interfacing with those children and those children and teens every single day.
Right.
So that our clinical director has often mentioned that secondary post-traumatic stress, and I can completely understand how that is a legitimate thing for those staff members to experience because of what they're having to deal with every day as part of their job. So,
Yeah.
so thankfully my job is a little bit different.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so speaking more specifically to your role, what is it that you do within the organization?
Sure. So I am the director of development, and my job is to raise, most focus on unrestricted support, programmatic support, things that our federal state grant may not cover, filling all of those holes that we still need to help the agency run and to provide a service to our families that are not within the budgetary constraints of what the grants typically provide. So there's many things that they will never cover and that we would still need in order to fully fulfill that mission of keeping kids safe, strengthening families. And we work a variety of ways to achieve the in-kind donations and the monetary donations that we need in order to make that happen. You mentioned earlier our annual event. That's one of our things that we've established. Last year was our inaugural event. This year it's our second annual, and that is our annual fundraiser specifically to raise funds for the agency so that we have that unrestricted support for everything that's needed that may not be covered, from supplies and supplies for family members, supplies for our team members, things that they need in their offices in order to perform services, right down to trainings, technology needs that we might have. If we've refurbished computers to the point where we can't refurbish them anymore and we need a whole new set of technology, and perhaps it's not, we're at the point where we need it, but it's not covered in that grant year budget and we have to wait till the next year's grant budget. So we still have needs that we can't allow services to be impacted by because we have a need. So I get the privilege of doing that as my work, to go out in the community, build relationships with individuals, with our community with business partners, and social civic organizations, and bring that support to the agency, getting the message out about who we are, what we do, so that people are aware that they have a local child advocacy center and that our services are free, and that we're the place, when people call in for a report of abuse, that it just doesn't kind of go off into air. It doesn't just stay with the police officers, that there's actually services that are provided further steps down the road. So I think people, make those kind of reports and they don't think what comes next. We're the what comes next in so many ways. Wow. And we're surrounded by a team of completely specialized and trained professionals that are amazing. And it's one of the things that makes there's so many wonderful nonprofits, especially in this side of Pasco. There's so many really worthwhile nonprofits. One of the wonderful things about us is that because of the unique services that we provide and the professionals that provide them, these are not services that are easily replicated at all. And we are the only certified sexual abuse treatment program for both Pasco and Hernando County as well. So we will occasionally get referrals. There are varying things where abuse where abuse happens. There's certain criteria for a lot of things, not to get in the weeds with stuff like that, but we'll get, referrals sometimes from Pinellas. We will get referrals from Hernando, and then we serve obviously all of Pasco. So I get to do fund development and community outreach and a whole bunch of other stuff for the agency that falls under my umbrella. But the people working, like our Healthy Families team members too, that are the boots on the ground, they're the ones going into parents, like people's homes, doing parenting classes with them, making sure that their homes are set up, that they have basic needs met, diapers, wipes, smoke alarms, outlet covers, all the things that you would help a parent establish to create nurturing, safe environments, so that upriver we prevent neglect and child abuse, and provide support to those families for years. There's actual program that they have to graduate from with Healthy Families.
That's awesome.
And then so that we make sure that we try to prevent seeing the number of people that we see downriver that end up coming through us through reports of abuse with our child protection team, and then eventually transferred over to our trauma therapists for that specialized trauma therapy. So I have my job, everybody has their other niche jobs, and as an agency, we're a small agency, and we serve thousands of families between all three of our major programs, plus the SAFE program, every single year without fail. So we continue to look for that support for the community to know who we are, and we have goals for growth over time, and the goal is to serve more children as needed, never putting children on wait lists and never turning children away as best as possible.
So how can, like, we're a chiropractic office, how can I help?
Yeah.
How can we help? What is it that we can do in our little piece of real estate that can help Pasco Kids First, that can actually bring benefit to your organization? What can we do?
Sure. So we always have an ongoing needs list for in-kind support, for tangible items that provide assistance to all of the different people in the programs providing for children and their families. So there's a variety of things that the therapist's office, needs, our healthy family team members might need. They have a Mother's Day event, for example, that's coming up. They want to do parent training on, self-care for mothers who are keeping that as a priority.
That everywhere.
Keeping that as a priority to take care of oneself very well, so that you're taking care of your children well also.
Right.
But so we're going to gather items and support to help that event kick off, so that the group of people that they serve, like, the training that they're going to do with them, the event that they're going to hold for them, that's well received, and they feel supported, and then they walk away with something that they didn't have before, with skills that they didn't have before, plus tools and tangible things. The other way is that we really want to continue to get the word out about who we are, and there are some volunteer opportunities with our Healthy Families program. Mostly we need financial support is always one of our biggest focuses,
right,
so that we can provide and fill those program holes, because needs continuously come up.
Right.
Things that we have get worn out and run out, and so that gaining more and more people, especially your clientele, that they have a local child advocacy center both in their county and here, is one of the very first steps. There was awareness.
What we're going to do, because we're wrapping up here in just a minute, that list that you have, I want to take that with me. I'm going to put it on our social media.
Sure.
And we're going to partner with you to raise awareness for what it is that you're doing. It has been so wonderful having you here. This is Maria with Pasco Kids First. My name is Angel. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.